Have you ever wondered what happens when thousands of years of ancient history collide with the absolute cutting edge of modern technology? Well, that's Karnataka for you. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to unpack the living legacy of a place that is fundamentally understood as the pride of India. It's a fascinating paradox, and today we're going to uncover exactly how this unique identity was built. Okay, let's break this down into 5 key areas. We're going to look at its history and great empires, the mind-blowing architecture, art and music, the deep roots of Kannada literature, and finally, its wild geographical diversity and tech scene. So, Part 1, History and Great Empires. You can't really understand this place without looking at the massive dynasties that built it, right? It's kind of like a giant puzzle. First, you have the Kadambas. Then the Chalukyas and Rashtrakutas step in, and these guys actually pioneered early rock-cut and structural temples. Next up were the Hoysalas, and finally the absolute powerhouse, the legendary Vijayanagara Empire. At its peak, this was literally one of the wealthiest, most globally connected places on Earth. Every single one of these eras laid down a crucial piece of Karnataka's DNA. Which brings us to Part 2, Magnificent Architecture and Sculpture. And wow, did these empires leave behind some physical magic. They basically introduced Indian architectural greatness to the world. Hampi is just stunning. We're talking sweeping ruins, grand temples, that iconic stone chariot, and massive market complexes that just scream historical wealth. But then you contrast that with places like Belur, Halebeedu, Somanathapura, and Tadakal. The Hoysala artisans famously used this soft soapstone, which allowed them to carve solid rock with the insane, intricate precision of a jeweler making a necklace. I mean, they literally turned these temples into poetry in stone. Moving right along to Part 3, Art, Culture, and Music. The cultural contrast at play here is just wild. On one hand, you've got this raw, percussive energy and vibrant rhythm from traditional folk arts like Dolu Kanitha and Viragase, plus the intense theatrical brilliance of Yakshagana. It is high energy and it's deeply rooted in traditional ritual. But then, right alongside it, you have the mathematical perfection, depth, and classical sophistication of Carnatic music. When you bring those two completely different worlds together, it elevates the true cultural soul of the region. All right, Part 4, the tradition of Kannada literature. Now, stepping away from the performing arts and into the written word, this region draws a massive amount of emotional resonance from thousands of years of literary heritage. We're talking about absolute giants here: Kuvempu, Bendra, and Shivarama Karantha. They didn't just enrich the Kannada language. Their profound voices literally shaped the cultural consciousness of the entire state. And to put that into perspective, this intellectual wealth is exactly why Karnataka has historically racked up numerous Jnanpith Awards, which is India's absolute highest literary honor. It is undeniably a literary powerhouse. And finally, Part 5, Geographical Diversity and Technology. The natural landscape here is almost unbelievable. Think about this. Within just a few hours of driving, you can transition from the lush, mist-covered mountain ranges of the Western Ghats, the Madnad region, straight down to the expansive, gorgeous beaches of the Arabian Sea coast. Having ecosystems that are this dramatically different within the same geographic borders is super rare, and it adds a massive amount of ecological wealth to all that historical prestige we just covered. And that brings us to a really cool defining duality. This is the exact same land that gave birth to deeply rooted ancient traditions in education, science, art, and philosophy. But today, it has perfectly leveraged that historical obsession with knowledge to become the central hub for modern Indian technology. So the very land that once produced ancient manuscripts is now writing the code that powers global IT. How cool is that? There's a quote from our source that I think beautifully summarizes this entire journey. It says, "Karnataka, a land that carved its history in stone, bloomed literature in Canada, found its soul in music, and is proudly carrying forward its heritage." It's honestly the perfect synthesis of history, culture, and constant forward progress. So before we wrap up this explainer, I really want to hear from you. When you think about all these incredible facets, from the ancient stone chariot of Hampi to the lush greens of the Western Ghats, or the buzzing, dynamic tech hubs, what is your absolute favorite place in Karnataka? Or, if you haven't been, what's the one thing you want to see the most? Share your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one.